If you don't pay attention to history, you're destined to repeat the same mistakes. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And the world as we know it took a big hit last Friday, well, not last Friday, but the 18th of September, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died at 87 years young. And I am going to quote an article from a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine named Peter J. Kaplan. The article is, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was my idol, is my idol, and will forever be my idol, and I am a man. And Mr. Kaplan is a writer with great skill and great sense of humor, and I would like to read to you what he said, because if we don't look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you know, the thing that we're going to remember is that there was a big fight in Washington about replacing her when she died, instead of looking at the accomplishments that she had in her life and how she affected her fellow man. So let's really look at what's important, shall we? For a 5'1" 100-pound wisp of a human being, she was a giant of a woman with an equally giant brain. And tough, as in tirelessly tough, a woman with undying purpose and relentless drive. Appointed by President Clinton to the Supreme Court, Ginsburg took the oath of office on August 10, 1993, becoming the second female justice to be confirmed following Sandra Day O'Connor. Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan have since joined her on the country's highest court, the Supreme Court, of course. Upon O'Connor's retirement in July 2005 until Sotomayor's confirmation in August 2009, Ginsburg was the only female justice on the Supreme Court. She described her years as a solitary female justice as, quote, the worst times, in a 2014 interview with Jeffrey Rosen of the New Republic. Quote, the worst times were the year I was alone, she recalled. The image to the public entering the courtroom was 8 men of a certain size, and then this little woman sitting to the side. That was not a good image for the public to see with only one woman. But now, with 3 of us on the bench, I am no longer lonely, and my newest colleagues are not shrinking violets. Think she wasn't tough? From being one of just 8 women in her Harvard Law School class of 500 plus to her Supreme Court appointment, she broke through barriers and defied expectations, becoming a feminist icon who not only changed the law, but also transformed the roles of men and women in society. A champion, gender discrimination, equal protection, and due process. And a megastar in the fine art of disagreeing agreeable, let me try that again, of disagreeing agreeably, she and Antonin Scalia offering a revealing case in point. She was a pioneering advocate for women's rights, who in her 9th decade became a much younger generation's cultural idol. The notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a play on the name of the notorious B.I.G., a famous rapper who was Brooklyn born, as was Ginsburg, anointed by a law student, Shana Kisnick, and her image, an expression serene yet severe, a frilly lace collar adorning her black judicial robe, her eyes framed by oversized glasses, and a gold crown perched at a rakish angle on her head, she became an internet sensation. Young women had the image tattooed on their arms. Girls sported RBG costumes for Halloween. And, quote, you can't spell truth without Ruth, unquote, appeared on t-shirts and bumper stickers. Delia Lithwick, writing in The Atlantic in 2019, offered this observation on the RBG phenomenon. Today, more than ever, women are starved for models of female influence, authenticity, dignity, and voice held up an octogenarian justice as the embodiment of hope for an empowered future, unquote. This late life adulation, bordering on rock star status, gained steam after the election of Donald Trump, whom Justice Ginsburg, in a rare flash of indiscretion, called, quote, a faker, unquote, in an interview during the 2016 presidential campaign. She later remarked that her comment had been ill-advised. Doing something highly unusual for a member of the nation's highest court, admitting that she may have made a mistake, she wrote in a brief statement issued by the court, judges should avoid commenting on a candidate for public office, unquote, conceding that her remarks were ill-advised and expressing regret. In the future, I will be more circumspect. Prior to taking her vow of greater circumspection, the woman born Joan Ruth Bader on March 15, 1933, and nicknamed Kiki as a child, authored the following pearls of wisdom and let the record reflect that she had plenty to say and said plenty. Now pay attention to these quotes because they're terrific. On her mother, my mother told me two things constantly. One was to be a lady and the other was to be independent. The study of law was unusual for women of my generation. For most girls growing up in the 40s, the most important degree was not your BA, but your MRS, the abbreviation for Mrs. On being rejected early in her career by a firm that had already hired a woman. Quote, you think about what would have happened. Suppose I had gotten a job as a permanent associate. Probably I would have climbed up the ladder and today I would be a retired partner. So often in life, things that you regard as an impediment turn out to be a great good fortune. From every negative comes a positive seed. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? On female Supreme Court justices, when I'm sometimes asked when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court, and I say, when there are 9, people are shocked. But there'd been 9 men, and nobody's ever raised a question about that. On discrimination, I try to teach through my opinions, through my speeches, how wrong it is to judge people on the basis of what they look like, color of their skin, whether they're men or women. On gender equality, women will have achieved true equality when men share with them the responsibility of bringing up the next generation. On feminism, I think the simplest explanation and one that captures the idea is a song that Marlo Thomas sang, free to be you and me, free to be, if you were a girl, doctor, lawyer, or Indian chief, anything you want to be. And if you're a boy, if you're a boy and you like teaching, you like nursing, and you'd like to have a doll, that's okay too. That notion that we should each be free to develop our own talents, whatever they may be, and not be held back by artificial barriers, man-made barriers, certainly they're not heaven sent. When she defended a woman's right to abortion, now this was in July of 1993, it is essential to a woman's equality with man that she be the decision maker, that her choice be controlling. If you impose restraints, you're disadvantaging her because of her sex. The state controlling a woman would mean denying her full autonomy and full equality. When she criticized partisan divisions in Congress, please listen to this one. This was in 2017, by the way, before the pandemic. I wish there was a way I could wave a magic wand and put back when people were respectful of each other and the Congress was working for the good of the country and not just along party lines. Someday, there'll be great people, great elected representatives who will say, enough of this nonsense. Let's be the kind of legislature the United States should have. I hope that day will come while I'm still alive. When she lauded the Me Too movement, it's about time. For so long, women were silent, thinking there was nothing you could do about it. But now the law is on the side of women or men who encounter harassment, and that's a good thing. Every woman of my vintage knows what sexual harassment is, although we didn't have a name for it. And then there was this, which engendered an apology that we spoke of earlier and prompted her to vow greater circumspection. On Trump, ahead of his nomination, July 2016, quote, "He is a faker. He has no consistency about him. He says whatever comes into his head at the moment. He really has an ego. How he's gotten away with not turning over his tax returns, I don't know. The press seems to be very gentle with him on that." By the way, that situation's still there, isn't it? I'm afraid the truth hurts sometimes, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg spoke the truth. Then there was her relationship with fellow Justice Scalia, complex with the shared love of jurisprudence and opera. The Ruth Bader Ginsburg Antonio Scalia two-headed vaudeville act represented one of Washington's storied odd couples morphing into famously good friends. And we've had kind of that before with John Adams and Thomas Jefferson both dying on the same day and becoming friends at the end of their lives, even though they were at complete opposite ends of the political spectrum. Antonin Scalia and Ginsburg went to the opera together. They spent New Year's Eve together. They even once spent time together atop an elephant. Scalia, a conservative from a liberal metropolis, Queens, and Ginsburg, a liberal who worked increasingly in a conservative court, found themselves sometimes at opposite ends of the legal spectrum, but elevated the ability to disagree agreeably to the highest art form. It may be hard to remember that not so long ago, political disagreements didn't demand that the combatants retreat to their respective corners spewing vitriol, and that ideological differences needn't be viewed as moral defects. Two justices' intellectual combat was never to be taken personally, and it wasn't. The world lost a shining star whose brilliance was only exceeded by the depth and breadth of her character, her spirit, her ethos. We were blessed to have had her. May she rest in peace. Once again, shout out to Peter J. Kaplan. You've got to examine the great people to see how they got where they are, their philosophies, their mindsets, because it's okay to be a copycat if you copy the right cat. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg was certainly the right cat. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.